Hi everyone. Welcome to Tanked Up, the podcast all about video games and craft beer. I'm one of your hosts, Ben, here with Lucy.
Hello, welcome back, Ben.
Oh yes, thank you very much. And here with Aadil.
Hey, yeah, welcome to... Oh, I've forgotten what the Marvel term is, because you were snapped last week, so you were...
Unsnap?
Begins with a B. Blipped.
Clap?
Blipped.
Blipped. Yeah. Welcome back, blipped boy.
Brilliant, sure.
What a great way to just derail any forward momentum of the podcast.
I love it instantly. Oh, it's good to be back. Thank you both for just hanging out last week and putting up an episode while I was, as Kim said, had a cold. Basically, she's like, you've just got a cold. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. And I'm like, I'm dead.
Will I be?
So yeah, that was me last week. But this week I'm good. I'm feeling better. So we'll kick in with some beers. We'll talk about a load of games that we have been playing. Lucy, not drinking this evening?
No. I've had my first dose of the vaccine. So
oh yes.
Just a rule of thumb is, I guess, don't chase vaccines with alcohol. So I was going to take a little break anyway. I felt inclined to drink last week because it would have been weird just to deal with drinking last week. Sadly took one for the team and had to drink. What a shame.
I mean,
life's so hard.
You have to sometimes, don't you?
Yeah. So yeah, maybe not next week, maybe the week after I'll be back on the beers.
Nice. I've got mine Thursday. I may not be quite as diligent as you. We'll see.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
I normally roll through every illness with Jägermeister, so we'll see how I feel.
Well, there you go.
I haven't been contacted, but they today lowered the ages to 36.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Oh.
So now I can just call and make an appointment, I guess.
Yeah. Just do it online.
Online.
Yeah.
You old boy.
Perfect. So you can drink.
I'm the old one, yet I'm the one without an appointment. The one time. It's supposed to be good for me.
Well, it just happens sometimes, doesn't it? It's just the way. Yeah. What are you going to drink tonight, though?
Besides my own tears?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I am having this beer. It's a Pollys.
Nice.
It's Pollys Double Dry Hop Double IPA Genesee. It's got Amarillo and Mosaic. It is 8%, and I'm having it first because the other one is weaker, but of a different type that I think will make sense.
Okay. So
double dry hops, Amarillo, Mosaic. It's Pollys, and it's a hefty 8%.
Brilliant. Nice. It's almost like we planned it. I also have a double dry hopped double IPA. They call it an Imperial IPA, but it's 8.5%. It's maybe because it's American. I've taken a little leaf out of Lucy's book and searched for some New York beers. So I have got Other Half's Double Mosaic Dream, which, as I say, is double dry hopped Imperial IPA, 8.5%.
Yeah, I had that the other day.
Oh, amazing. Nice. We can talk about it a little bit. Is there any info on it? No. Nothing. Don't know what's in it. Don't know who made it. Don't know where it's from. Don't know what it is. I'll open it and I'll drink it anyway, as we do.
As we do.
I think I had that the other day, or it's downstairs, one of the two. Who knows? I had a Other Half beer, but that might be in on the podcast.
Okay. Because you had, what was it? You had broccoli, not last week, but the week I was on the week before.
Yes.
And it made me,
I'm sure I picked up that. I'm sure I picked up that beer. Whether I drank it or not, who's to know? Who's to say?
I mean, there's no way of ever finding out, so
no.
It's fine. Aadil, have you managed to pour yet? Whilst we've been blabbering on about Other Half. Good.
It is a lovely hazy sort of. I want to say, It's a little too yellow for a mango juice, but there's something about its thickness and its lack of transparency that reminds me of like a tropical juice. So not quite pulpy and thick, just kind of a little watered down.
Okay.
But it's, yeah, as you can see, a little more like straw gold colored. On the pour, I immediately got a waft of, I'm gonna say, light passion fruit with like a and when I take a bigger nose, I'm getting some tropical, but also it's a lemon that's very distinct. Almost too, I think it's the fact that it's an 8%, so it's coming off as cleaner lemon.
Okay.
Like just a little like the lemon scented cleaners you get, right? And I think it's just because the alcohol is mixing with this kind of sweet lemon. But underneath that, there's a bit of maltiness as well, which kind of helps round it out. Yeah, let me just drink it instead of just snorting it like a fool.
You just basically don't drink it all night. Just sit there and smell it the entire time.
Well, there are beers.
I wanted to do that with the Vault City beers.
I was going to say there are beers we've had recently that are basically that. Yeah.
Just pour it down the sink and smell the bottle, really. And then
well, if you don't pour it down the sink, you'll have more of the scent to get. Surely it'll last long.
No, doesn't go with my analogy here.
Okay, fair enough. What if the sink was your throat?
I like that idea better.
Yeah. Okay.
I think there's some low budget horror film that I'm like channeling.
I'm glad you said horror, not something else there. So that's
Hush now. This is a family friendly show.
Oh, always, yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Fucking Christ, man. It is a good beer.
Good. I'm glad.
How's that for a segue? So it definitely is doing the same thing as the nose, which I appreciate. It's double dry hop, so you have the chance for maybe. Sorry, the cat is yelling behind me. He's like, double dry hop, fuck you. You have the chance for for the nose to be quite different from the taste, just because of the dry hopping. Here, it's a little more malty, but it has that sweet lemon near the finish, and that lingers a bit. But luckily, I think because you've got the full body of this sort of thicker 8% IPA, you're not getting that. I'm not getting that sweetness stuck with the lemon like I was in the nose, making it taste remind me of cleaner. This is much more melded together.
Okay.
I'd say the tropical notes closer to passion fruit still, but like a little more just closer to generic. Yes, this is tropically without like a specificity of this is definitely this fruit. And yeah, like I said, there's this like malty backbone. It's not like super forward, but it's just holding everything together. The fruit and citrus is kind of draped on it, if you will.
Okay.
And I'm noticing as I've had a few sips and acclimatized with my palate, it's definitely doing a lot of work here. And I think that's where the 8% is being hidden. It's just it has a bit more of a thicker, maltier taste.
Yeah.
And so you kind of just sometimes it's like, oh yes, the sweetness of the alcohol is going with these like higher up notes, but this is sort of being subdued by the maltiness. This is very refreshing. This is a very sunny day, but under the shade. Not a scorcher, but like it's warm, it's hot. I'm not sweating bullets, but I'm sipping this really nice, cold, refreshing, kind of thick. Something
a little bit bigger as well. You can't just pound it back to kind of to fully replenish after doing garden work or something like that. But it's something to luxuriate over whilst it's lovely outside.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Good. Nice.
And if I could, I wouldn't bother because you said it close enough that it would just be boring.
What was it called? Jealousy. Jealousy.
Yeah. So this was the weird one. So it's in quotes Genesee, as in JENNASEA, like Jenna, and then the sea, but it's all one word.
Right. Okay.
I believe I've also had that beer.
What do you think?
Oh,
Do you
I
remember?
can't remember.
Yeah.
A lot of the Pollys, they've been making a lot of them recently. A lot of
Yeah.
them, I mean, I enjoy them all, but I don't think any have like stood out. They're all,
I was gonna say,
very good, but they're all kind of similar. They're making a lot of IPAs at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
What I was gonna say is this is very good. But it's very good in the way that like we kind of lament sometimes people not making a beery enough beer or experimenting too much, and this is like the other end of the spectrum, which is like it's doing something. It's not just like quintessential IPA, but it's definitely the point of this beer is to be like a dry hopped IPA.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's got these that maltiness is like this is a beer,
Yes.
a bit of tropicaliness. Well, I'm actually mostly surprised that like the lingering taste is almost a little sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm just not having. There's obviously the bitterness from the beer itself, but it's really light, and because there's that sweetness on top, they kind of go together, and you don't feel like you're having like again like 5 years ago you couldn't have a sip of an IPA without having that like bitter finish, and this is very much not that, which makes it very drinkable at 8%. But like Ben said, it's just got enough of a full body that it's like a casually sip beer and enjoy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I will say, like, a lot of the Pollys beers are reasonably priced, probably a bit cheaper than your average as well. So
Yeah, definitely.
it's nice just to get a really good high quality beer, and even if their range at the moment is mostly similar IPAs, it's good that for a decent price you can just rely on them and have a
And to
really
be honest,
decent
like
beer for the buck. Yeah.
like going to the park or something, or like a scorcher and have on the deck, getting like a 6-pack of like different Pollys, but knowing that they'll all be kind of the same, which means your session's going to be riding fine. Like that also sounds like a great thing. And again, like you said, the price is a really good thing for being able to also have that variety of taste.
Yeah, nice. I
Doing good work down there.
I had Monster Cat the other night, which I think is about 7.5%, something like that, and that was really nice.
Yeah.
Very light, very easy. So yeah, solid IPA. So cool. So this other half, haven't had another half beer for a long time. We could probably go back and find out when it was, but who knows? Who knows? It's actually very light on the nose. I expected something bigger, I think, because it's a double dry hopped beer. It's very light, a little orangey in colour, but nice hazy beer. It's very smooth, right? And it's full of sort of fruit flavour. But there's just something a little bit sweeter in there as well. Almost a little bit sort of candy-ish. Sort of sat in there as well. It's not quite just, it's not just a little bit of mango and a little bit of this. There's just something in there as well. I wonder if there's some kind of slightly candy elements coming from sort of like the esters or kind of from the yeast that you've used or something like that. But that's really interesting because it starts off very light, very smooth, very easy, and you think, yeah, it's just another fruity beer, and then suddenly there's just this little kind of candy kick to it. Like, ooh, just lifts it just that little bit.
So it's, and you're like, it's much more of a candied sweetness. It's not like you can get like a stewed fruit sweetness coming out, which is usually more like earthy or
so it does lean a little bit in that way with its fruits. It's almost a little bit of maybe something like papaya or something like that in there as well, with maybe a little bit of mango. Something that is just a little bit more kind of earthy, but it does, and it makes you. This is why I think I was surprised by it, because it does make you think, yeah, okay, I get it. It's going to go a little bit more stewed. It's going to go a little bit more earthy, but there is that candy sort of sweetness there as well, which just sits on the tongue a little bit and kind of goes reasonably quickly. It goes a lot quicker than the fruit flavors do, but it just picks it up again. So when you think it's gonna get a little bit more dank and a little bit more bitter, that sweetness just lifts it very slightly. and it's a little fleeting. So you come back down to those sort of earthier tropical fruits. But yeah, I mean, how is this 8.5%? There's nothing. There's nothing. It's hidden so much. It's hidden so well. Dangerously so. Like this has been very, very easy to neck. Lucy, did you say you had it recently? Do you remember?
My memory's getting worse. So poor. I might have had it last week. I don't know.
Had it 20 minutes ago.
I was going to say, that's actually why she's not drinking now, because she just pounded one of those back.
I have no idea.
No, that's fair.
No, that's fair. I might get a glass of water and just check, see if it's still there. But it's like Schrodinger's beer. Is it there? Is it not? Who knows?
Perfect. Nice. Cool. So, Aadil, you and I, we've got our beers. We're all ready to go, I think. Would you like to start this week, Aadil? As you played a game which you streamed earlier today, so it's fresh in the memory.
Sure. Yeah. Yes, I did. I played a game. It comes out on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
It was key was provided by the publisher through Keymailer, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's published by Tiny Build, which I like the stuff Tiny Build does.
Mm-hmm.
I've not played all of their things, but I'm trying to think of what the last one.
They do.
Yeah. I think the last one, actually, Ben, you and I streamed the beta of it. I think at one point
we did. Yeah.
I think that's my like. It just happens to be the last Tiny Build experience I had. But the actual dev is Fluxscopic Limited, and they're the guys who did Final Station.
Oh, is it?
Oh, really?
Oh, I really like the Final Station.
Like a Final Station 2 coming.
Oh, maybe not.
That's
no,
a really good
it
game.
might be. I might be lying. It might be
no.
Steam lying to me. Yeah, Steam lied to me. That's just a Tiny Build release from a different set of devs. Because Steam is notoriously bad for clicking on developer page, and if they don't have their own page, they send you to the publishers. And I didn't double check, so oops. But also, that's a great example of a Tiny Build published game that we all like.
Yes,
Final Station. We got there, folks. We got there. Yes. So this game is it's a like action adventure puzzle platformer is what they call it. Adventure game puzzle platformer. So
what was the name of it?
Mayhem in Single Valley.
Single Valley, right.
Yeah, in this fast-paced puzzle-loaded action adventure, you'll juggle housework, zombie hordes, family dinners, and radioactive squirrels. Oh, and you have to prevent the end of the world while keeping everyone from finding out it was your fault. All your fault. Which it wasn't. Someone just thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I hate when the log line is a lie. Just saying that. There's a way of writing that
I mean, you might get further into the story and find out that actually it was from something random that the character had done 6 weeks ago, you know.
Yeah, so basically you start out as this like red hooded character. It's like a 16-bit-ish pixel arty controller based. You move around the room. The world isometric almost, like not quite top down.
Yeah.
And you like interact with your family. And you get very quick vibes that like your dad's kind of a layabout drunk. One of the first things you can do is go to the fridge and get beers, and if you throw a beer within eyesight of your dad, he'll get up and walk over to it and pick it up, which is a very
anyway I get up.
Yeah, it's a very well thought out way of introducing the main mechanic with enemies, which is you find out like so basically something and some sort of the river, and then any animal who drinks it becomes a sort of purple beastie version of themselves, and they have attacks with glowing green eyes, and so they like frogs shoot out a big green bubble of gas you have to avoid. A squirrel takes all your stuff when you're about to move away for college. It's the day you're leaving town. Anyway, So the way you can basically the mechanic is you can either try and dodge their attacks, like learn their attacks with your jump and your roll and just movement, or you can collect things like acorns. And if you throw an acorn or slingshot an acorn later, then all the squirrels that are within sight of that will stop at chasing after you and will go to the acorn first. Carrots for rabbits, etc., etc. So it didn't occur to me until after the stream that like the way they introduce this mechanic is by making your dad fetch beers, because you distract him, and then you can like if you try and like read the TV screen to get the news, it won't let you because he'll say get out of the way. But you can throw a beer and he'll walk over to it, and then you can watch the TV. And that's actually how they like introduce the mechanic of throwing things distracts certain things if it's the right sort of thing, which is very clever. And I think that's basically what I liked about the game was there's very crisp writing. If the mechanic like mechanically it feels pretty good, but it's a neat world and an interesting story. And like if you end up watching the VOD, and Ben can attest, I kind of wasn't doing my usual like take a step back and like comment about the game and it's what it's doing, what's not. I kind of got lost in playing. Yeah, I was playing a game for a couple hours on the internet and it was like, oh right. And luckily Ben was there to point out all the weird missing clones, it turns out, of me.
Oh, it's clones.
Yeah, according to yeah, something in the UI said clones, and I was like, oh okay. I don't know how long it is. Spent 2 hours. Wasn't rushing by any means. Most of the puzzle solving was also, like there's a part where you're trying to catch the squirrel, which has your backpack, and it's standing on top of the log, and you entered a logging camp, so you have to figure out how to, get the saw blade from some other part of the forest and get gas from another part of the forest to like make the log cutting contraption work that will then knock over the tree that the squirrel is sitting on so you can get your backpack back. It's like that type of adventure gamey stuff, but it's very literally like an adventure game with platforming mechanics. Like your navigation in the world needs some minor precision for like, especially if you are when you're on screen with these enemies, because it's like either you just load up on things to distract them and then walk, or you do what I did for most of the game, which was like abuse the dive roll and just try and learn their patterns and just forget about aiming things.
Yeah. You did a lot of defense.
Yeah, well, it wasn't until the latter half hour that I had a way of actually doing the offense, and then I wasn't matching the right things to the right animals.
Yes.
A few times where I'm like, I'm gonna F this thing up. It's like, magic thing. Nope. Acorn is not the right thing for this thing, so it just flies right through them. But yeah, so I mean, I don't want to spoil too much of the plot, but that's basically it. You're kind of just wandering around, and like, then you meet a mad scientist, tinfoil hat man, and you discover like booze basically cures the weird goop. So if a squirrel touches the goop, it becomes a rabid squirrel who's trying to chase you down and attack you. If you hit it with a goop encrusted acorn, it'll turn back into a regular squirrel.
A hooch encrusted.
Hooch, yeah.
Well, it's a disinfectant alcohol. So
it's true to the world. If you're ill, just drink. You're fine.
Yes, I really like the like hilt shift voxel look that it has. It's an interesting art style.
Yeah, and it looks really lovely. The lighting works fantastically, and there were some areas where they looked sort of like fully lit, and then you'd go into a space which wasn't, and it was darker, and they played with that really well. And then when Aadil got up into that sort of logging camp area, you could tell that it was sort of covered by sort of a canopy of trees, because the tone just dropped very slightly, and it just muted just a little bit, which made it seem like it was a darker part of the world. I think they played with that kind of way to change the aesthetic very well. So yeah, it's a very good looking game.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, so there's just enough physics in the game such that like you're pushing a log across a pit, and if you don't push enough, if it's not in the right spot, like as soon as the halfway point falls, it'll start to fall, and you can maybe grab it and save it versus just immediately lose it, because it's not like a pre-rendered animation of like, now you've gone through this, lose the thing. stuff like that. And then and actually the lighting is not like super baked in, because like in the first, you wake up in your bedroom and you learn how to move furniture around, and you turn on your table lamp and you can move it around, and you can immediately see, like, when you're walking in front of it, the shadows you cast, etc. And it's just like Ben said, just really well done, and it's not in your face about all these things. It's just clearly just a well designed aesthetic. Same thing with the enemies. For the most part, they're just like slightly bigger purple versions of the animal you'd think. But then when their attacks come in, they're much more dynamic, but they're still like clearly hand-drawn animations that are put in the world, kind of thing. Like, I'm thinking of when the rabbit attacks, it like teleports from where it is to where you are and does like a zigzag slashing thing, which just reminds me of like some sort of like Vega attack or something, like from OG Street Fighter. Just that like zigzag moves of old school games. Really well like planned out animation, but again in a seamless world. I think the thing that it's hard to describe is just the tone of the game is silly. It's not super silly, but like it's basically like, oh, you're saving the world, and oh, I need to, like, you have to remember that like the first hour of the game is you collect all of the stuff in your house because you're about to go to college. So you need to find your savings. Your dad hid your passport in his nightstand, where there's a pint of beer.
Dad? Is this a cry for help? This game?
Yeah.
Well, there are a few comments when he's saying his goodbyes. Yes.
Yeah.
So social commentary, please.
Yeah. So like it's when I say silly, I mean there's jokes in it. But like some of them are lighthearted, but the overall tone is kind of, I feel like it's aimed at, our age group, and by that I mean millennials, I guess. Like there's a lot of references to like the collectibles are all like Mike Myers doll, baseball cards, Goat Man action figure, like stuff that like. Yeah, so kids of the 80s and 90s would have still grown up with and understand. And that also, I mean,
half man, half goat.
Yeah. This is what I mean. So some of
just
it is
like Spider-Man,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Some of it is just like
Mike Myers and Goat Man.
Well, I mean, they said Sad Mike doll or something like that, right?
Okay.
That's copyright. But like, so it's like got these nostalgia beats. It's got some silly humor, but it also has like. This is what a bad household. Like, you are going to college and you're not, like, you're low socioeconomic status and not sure how bad your relationship with your dad is, but he's definitely not the best. Like, and it's all done sort of casually in the background because that's not the point. But just it makes it clear that they're aiming not at a certain audience. But then there's also like you meet a guy who's like, help me, I lost a swimsuit when the thing's attacked, and then you go into his trailer, and the first thing you see is, like, what was it? Skinny Dipping Annual magazine. And then you go 3 feet to the left, and it's Skinny Dipping Monthly, Skinny Dipping Weekly, Skinny Dipping Daily. At the very edge of his trailer is Skinny Dipping Minute magazine. And it's very stupid and silly. And then so you end up finding, like, ants, right? And you go take it to them, and then you see this guy with this like handlebar mustache. Again, he's a like 16-bit sort of, I would say, like a fifth of the screen tall kind of thing. Like that's the sort of scale. So he's just a bit taller than you, and he runs into his trailer, and you can follow him. And then he's just got his hands up and he's jumping on the bed.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all he does. And like, it turns out there was no item you got from him or whatever. You just found this nudist some pants, and he's now hiding from the squirrels by jumping on his own bed. So like, it's silly, right?
It's my kind of stupid that I enjoy.
Yeah, and so that's what I mean. It's not like it's not like we're so random. It's just
not like edgy or edgelord kind of thing. It's just a bit of silliness.
And then there's like another that you meet other guys who seem to be probably nudists or just guys who like swimming in very little, like that. You've seen a couple of those, and you're just like, okay, I get what you're doing. This is silly. I don't mind this.
You don't want to swim in that goop on the nude. Though.
Oh, there's a waterfall which is fresh water, so it's not gooped, and that's and that's how they introduced the two different types of waters. There's a guy swimming, and he's just like, Water's great, guy.
And actually, it does it quite well in the way that where the waterfall comes down at the as kind of this, not quite the background of the area, and then flows into the water. You can kind of see then the flow of the water because it comes down and then there's this sort of crescent where it's clean water and then where the sort of the toxic water is hitting it, and you know that that's the run of the water. So the toxic water is kind of still and stagnant, and this is where the fresh water is running. Like, there's a lot of detail in this which works very, very well, and a lot of work has gone into kind of building the assets and the way that they're sort of presented, right? Yeah, and within whatever engine they've used, absolutely. That it looks fantastic, and lots of stuff in there is kind of just set dressing, but it still has a depth to it, and it still kind of does something or operates. There was a generator sat by a house, and we were thinking this must do something. It wasn't. It's just a generator. You can see the fan swishing around. There's a sound to it.
And it was like vibrating.
Yeah, and that was it.
It did have a collectible on top.
It did, yeah. But that was
like
kind
a lot
of
the collectibles are just like go off the beaten path, tiny amount of jumping puzzle, or just like it's like the very standard like, oh, you might not have known you could go this way, then it's really accessible, or you could probably go this way, oh, but you're gonna might need to maybe drag a thing to jump on a thing to get a thing.
Did you not ever play The Tourist? Tourist with a Y instead of an I.
I don't think so.
I think it came to Game Pass last year. It seems similar to this, like voxely, very good, like attention to detail, slight puzzle, platformer, adventure kind of game-ish. It seems very similar.
I don't know this one.
It's a good 4 hours. I think I played it last year because he's going to like different like Mediterranean like islands. It was just like really, it made you feel like you were abroad when you're really in love there. So.
Nice. That's good.
I mean, that sounds great.
That's exactly what we want in games at the moment, right?
So this is one of those things where like I know I'm going to play this again, which I rarely say this about the games I play, and that's not because I play bad games. It's just like, you know, there's a bit of the churn of the week to week first looks, and there's also the games I'm like playing for fun, not for out of lives. This is the one that like I said, midway through the stream, I'm like, oh, I'm just playing this. It's been an hour and I didn't even notice. Like, I want to do more. And like, I also did classic, oh, right, controllers. It's been a while. I'm kind of not accurate with this. Like, Aspen, there's some deaths that were just like, really? Oh, there's also like an upgrade system of gear. Okay. Like you can upgrade. So basically, there's these like dudes in red hoodies like you around the world, and like they're usually in peril in some way, and you have to figure out how to save them, and they give you duct tape, and then you can upgrade your shoes, which make your speed, swim speed, land speed, and then when it gets past the first level, also dodge speed up, and then you've got your backpack, which is your carrying capacity, and your you can grab trash can lids, and they're literally just a shield. So if you muck up,
gives you a free
dying
hit.
It's a free hit, yeah, and you can upgrade that to get carry more trash can lids. And then there's your slingshot, which you don't even get until about say 40 minutes into the game, probably.
Yeah, if not an hour,
maybe more. Yeah, if not an hour. And I mean that comes with being able to, once you find the cure, it's basically how you give the cure. But before you learn that the hooch is magic, there's no reason why like throwing a thing versus slingshotting a thing means anything.
Yes.
Yeah, the other thing I would say is just it's pretty good at checkpointing. It autosaves a lot, but like when you die on screen, you get hit by an attack, it resets you to the last major thing that happened. So sometimes you're like halfway through a puzzle and you die, and it's like, oh, I have to do the whole puzzle. But actually, often it's like you go back and you're like, oh, actually, 3/4 of the puzzle has actually been done. I just was worried that I just have to redo the last quarter. So I didn't. The one time where I was like dreading it, it turns out that's what happened. I was like, oh, okay. So it's usually quite forgiving, which is good because when you decide to overthink things on it, scream through a platforming thing the first time and then take 7 times to figure out how you did it the first time. It's really quick on reloads because obviously it's a low overhead thing. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's basically. I think I've covered all the things. It's sort of hard to describe what makes it good, except it's the polish. It's what I really like actually is that it is a platformer in some strongly in some respects. Like you like to get through certain parts, you have to be able to do the dodging, etc. To get through certain puzzles, you have to get the jumping platforming. It's not like super difficult, and then it's a puzzle adventure game in the sense of there's these, again, not super difficult, do a little lateral thinking, wedge the log under the trunk of the car once you move it enough, and then you can cross the area. But if you don't wedge it on the car, the log tips. That was a Ben help out move. But what I found really interesting was when it was like a slightly tougher puzzle, and then I went back to platform space, I would die. Like I could feel my brain not switching gears quick enough, if that makes sense, which I found really interesting. It was just like, oh yeah, I've just been doing puzzling, and it's like, oh shit, I need to remember how to jump. Like there was like a 10-minute period where I forgot there was a roll, just forgot that there was a roll to dodge.
It's easy to do.
Get out of dodge. Yeah. I was also kindly given a code by the publisher, so it's downloaded, and I might start that tomorrow.
Nice.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts will be.
Yes. Perfect. Good. Nice. So that was Mayhem in Single Valley.
Yeah. Yeah, you're supposed to be going to college in the city, in a very standard video game tropey thing.
Yeah. It'd be finally interesting what Single Valley sort of suggests. I don't know, just seems a bit more suggestive than just being a name for it, but it may just be a name for it, I guess.
Maybe.
Who knows? When either of you have run all the way through, you'll be able to come back with the theories on what this game is trying to say, whether it was you who caused or the character that caused all of this. So yes, I'm sure it's something we'll return to and have a little bit more chat on at some point.
Top tip: you probably don't need to keep the dog that you got from the ball you got from the dog. You're probably just wasting an inventory slot.
As we said, you kept it for sentimental value, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very bad at doing that stupid stuff with games. Just like, it's taking up a spot, but the worst was Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO. Because like the quest line for the Jedi Knight or whatever, like light side Jedi, was the way you get your lightsaber. Like the end of the first planet, you build your lightsaber because that's what Jedis do, right? But they make it so over the top that you like find an ancient temple no one's seen before, and you find this thing, and it is the case of the original first lightsaber. And then you build a lightsaber, and you're like, I have remade the first lightsaber. I'm that badass. And then, of course, the disconnect of MMOs is like, and everyone else who says Jedi Knight on their character has done the same thing. But then when it came to be like upgrading, it's like, this is like real important archaeological find. And you're giving me like $10 for it. So I'll just keep it in my bank because I mean this is important. It means nothing in the game mechanics way, but like the way me as the character is like, I can't sell this.
That's it. And games do quite well at signposting a lot of this these days, where you get like a rusty knife or absolutely shit axe, and it's the starting weapon, and as soon as I get something, that one's gone. I think they picked up quite quickly that players do put value in items, especially starting items, if you've used it for a little bit of time, and then only then it's kind of upgraded a little bit. So nice, good.
But if they'd given me Fisher's Price Baby's first lightsaber, sold it in a flash.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll make it the most important lightsaber in history.
It's only only 1 foot long. Your reach with it's really limited. You've got to kind of stand away from enemies and do this, wave it at them. Yeah, Baby's first lightsaber, absolutely. I won't go into. I was going to say just like the Old Republic being Baby's first MMO, but we won't go into that. I haven't played that game for a very long time. I don't know what it's like these days. So
is it still on?
I mean, I think it is still going. I think it's free to play these days. So some people play it still. Sure, cool.
Yeah. Anyway,
Let's move.
that's Minimal Valley. What was it called again? I've already forgotten.
Mayhem in
Mayhem.
Single
Yeah.
Valley. Yes.
I don't know why my brain cannot hold that string of syllables well. Like even on the stream, I was just like, I don't know.
I think you just called it Mayhem in the end for most of it.
Yeah.
Nice, cool. I have a game I should talk about. It's something I've been kind of putting off talking about because I wanted to spend more time with it. It's called Warzone: An End Apart. Is that what it's actually called? No.
It was Endzone.
Yes, A World Apart. Endzone, A World Apart. There we go. I'm getting confused now. I'm getting mixed up with all of these words. Jesus Christ.
Is it Warzone, the Call of Duty one? or something?
Yeah.
There's
I think
so
you're
many.
thinking Warframe? Free to play Schluter? It's John Madden's Warframe.
John Madden's Warframe, yes. So Endzone, it's a city builder, right? A game, a genre of games I absolutely love, and as I say, I've been putting off talking about this game because I've kind of wanted to give it a little bit more time. I've wanted to give it a little bit more to kind of grow on me. We got a code through Press Engine. It's from Gently Mad Studios and Ensemble Entertainment. It kind of tries to change the city builder genre a little bit by essentially making it more sort of survival based. So it's kind of this post-apocalyptic world. There's been like nuclear war, and you are a group of people who have to build a new city and go about doing so in a pretty standard sort of way. You know, you build houses for families, you build farms, you have to collect water, you have to collect different resources to create different items, and that allows you to kind of upgrade things and move through sort of the buildings. But it throws in a few different things. So there's this idea that there's kind of like acid rain and stuff. So it makes it a little bit more kind of survivally, but it feels a bit just kind of just like another layer to stuff. Like, it doesn't really feel like there's a huge amount kind of going on with that aspect to change up this kind of gameplay too much, because all you do is collect some stuff and make like hazmat suits or masks and stuff instead. So it kind of just turns it more into another resource that you sort of have to manage to be able to survive. I think its closest game is something like Banished, which I absolutely loved, because Banished took the city builder thing and was like, hey, you're a group of settlers, but like, you guys, like, there are people, you have people, and they can die. So it's a game over if all of your people die. Or, you know, you get down to like the last bloke and they can't reproduce with anybody, then as soon as they die of old age, that's it. Settlement is over. And this is a similar sort of thing. And I find with these kinds of games, you're trying to kind of min-max stuff constantly. You're trying to balance these resources that you've got. You're trying to balance kind of the people against the jobs that they can have, making sure that you don't go like, well, I can have 10 people collecting water, but there's no point in having 10 people collecting water because 5 of them are stood around doing nothing because the ginormous like water tank I've got is already full. And you kind of play through the systems and the jobs and the different levels of people that you can have, like, constantly. And one step that Endzone takes a little bit further than something like Banished is that you can see the path that people are taking. So you can see that this person, who is, I don't know, water collector number 1, will walk this way and this way over to the little collection station of the lake. They'll walk back and go over to where you store the water. They'll then walk over to the storage room because they need some food, or they need a new tool, or they need something else. And it kind of felt a little bit like I'm, again, min-maxing all of these resources, but then trying to optimize the path of all of these people.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very fun. It was...
Oh no!
Well, yeah.
I think I picked the mic. I was so distracted by that.
It felt just a little bit too much like I was leaning into the systems and trying to manipulate them as best I could for the best kind of outcome, rather than being like, hey, I'll just build some houses over here and I'll just do this. And again, on these systems, like houses had a... Oh, what word did they use? I don't remember. It's like an aesthetic value. So as soon as you put them next to like a manufacturing place, then they weren't quite as good, or they had a minus value to something that was over here, kind of in the forest, away from all of that sort of thing. I didn't really see how that impacted on the kind of the inhabitants or their productivity or that kind of stuff. But there's something else in there. And again, this is why I say I think I want to give it a little bit more time, because it seems that there are kind of systems on systems on systems here, lots of stuff to take in, lots of things to consider, lots of stuff to balance out. But at least in the I've played like 20 hours maybe, and
That's a lot of hours.
And at least in that, some of those I did. It was paused for maybe 2 or 3 of those, so I've probably realistically played like 16 or 17, let's say.
Oh, still a fair bit.
It is. Doesn't feel like a fair bit for a city builder.
True, but
these are games which you kind of...
One of the reasons I don't.
in my eyes, 10 minutes for a city builder is usually enough for me. So
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. And there's lots of good stuff going on. I really like the aesthetic. It lives somewhere in between Mutant Year Zero. It's not kind of like your Fallout post-apocalyptic kind of thing. It's a little bit more sort of ramshackle, I suppose, than that. But then there's...
I was about to say it looks like I was going to say it looks like Fallout, like old school CRPG.
Yes, like original Fallout. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not like the more sort of modern versions. Yes. Completely. But the music also evokes a little bit more of an ethereal tone to it. So actually, the music is really similar to something like EVE Online. And there's not a disconnect in between kind of this ethereal, kind of like floating through space kind of tone to the music versus this very grounded, very cobbled together aesthetic to kind of the build. And it's a dirty kind of world and all that sort of stuff. But I found myself kind of just sitting and not really doing anything, just watching my people going back and forward, moving across their routes, just listening and sitting, chilling out to the sort of like the music for a couple of minutes before thinking, oh, okay, actually, I need to do this. I need to either build a hospital or I need to do this kind of thing.
Oh, that sounds really good, though.
I mean, so that part of it is good, but then you're brought back into the what are my checklist of things that I need to do to have a successful city and for it to keep going. Well, I need a hospital because of X, or I need another production plant which makes plastics because of this. And it really does. I don't know whether I've just fallen out with these games because
hey,
not to take it on too much of a tangent, but I was playing a lot of City Skylines for a while, and I just haven't gone back to that game for some time now. Maybe 18 months, something like that. Yeah,
sorry, close. I mean 17 years under lockdown. I just mean, like, I remember, I know you haven't mentioned it since, like, before lockdown. Which is kind of surprising, given that, like, obviously you are more prone to play games, be stuck indoors, etc.
Yes, yeah, completely.
And you never seem to want to go, you didn't seem to have that drive to play it.
Yeah, I absolutely. And I think this this just shows that I think I'm not done with the genre, but I'm just not in the space to want to play these games. And you know, I anytime I'm offered a code for a game like this, I will say yes, absolutely, because I know I like this genre of games. But I'm looking for something that is very different. I'm looking for something that will just that will do something else, that will take me out of this kind of very generic space that this is in. And Endzone is trying to do something else. It's trying to be a little bit more survival, but it's not really anything that kind of Banished hadn't done already, which again is another game I've sunk a lot of hours into. Banished is like a nuts amount of hours. What's Banished? How do I get to my library page?
I think I have Banished on GOG. I don't even know if I have it on Steam.
So you can tell I like these kinds of games. City Skylines, 208 hours. Civilization 5, 189 hours. Civilization 6, 159 hours. Banished, 129 hours. Endless Legend, 93 hours. Going between that 4x city builder kind of thing, that's a lot of time. I can't see myself playing much more of Endzone. Really.
But is that just because you won't be able to find it in your Steam out library after today?
Maybe.
Forza WA.
That's it. I'll just have to type in zone. Something to do with zones, right? Green Hill Zone, Labyrinth Zone. Who knows anymore?
So
yeah.
Is it that the mechanics? So actually, I guess two questions. So it sounds like mechanically it's just not quite, or you're not quite gelling with its loops in the same way. Like City Skylines, from what I recall, it was doing a lot more like things about how cities are built, like much more like zoning and
much more urban planning wise. Yes,
urban planning. Yeah, that's the term I was looking for. Versus like most of these city builders are very much like build a road, zone it, make residential area, like SimCity, like you know, like mostly still like the engine of the egg. Now the selling point of World of Ezio, or whatever this is called, is the post-apocalyptic thing. Now, do you think that's actually making it worse? Like, because the things because everything is broken and run down, you don't have as much advancements or whatever.
I don't think it's making it worse. So again, I will bring it back to Banished, which was a kind of medieval set thing. You know, you were a group of settlers that had left your town for whatever reason, and everything was kind of very like timber huts, you know, thatched cottages and that sort of kind of thing. And I think the post-apocalyptic aesthetic on this is very nice. It looks beautiful. But I think it's just another system on top. It's just another thing to have to manage. It's like, yeah, you need to put filters. You need to build filters and put them in on your water. Otherwise your water might get contaminated, right?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Was like, what was the mechanics of that match the setting?
It just feels
rather than being like accelerating it forward, making you like the loop. It sounds more like it's in the way.
Yeah, it feels like it's just like one more step. So rather than just being like, hey, I can build this new building, or hey, I can do this new thing, it's just like, oh, but first I have to make sure that my water is clean. Okay, done. I've spent the 5 minutes it takes to do this, and it is now done. And until I grow a little bit bigger and have to then think about the next stage of that, that I can ignore that completely. And there's other stuff in this that you know, once you set it up, it kind of just goes as long as you've got enough and you're balancing your people as a resource enough to be like, well, that person died of old age, but there's another person who is unemployed who can just swoop straight into that job and kind of do that, so there's no misstep there. A lot of those systems, or a lot of the resources, will just kind of nicely tick up. And there's other stuff, you know, you can send people out on scouting missions to go and look in kind of existing buildings, and you collect scrap. The world is full of scrap, like people left their shit everywhere. But it's just, again, it's just another resource. It's just another thing to have to do. And it doesn't really do much more for me than just hit the general notes of this and be like, yeah, it looks pretty. It's got a very Very good soundtrack. Cool. So, yeah, I want to put more time into it. I want to see if this goes any deeper, but I don't know whether I will.
I think 16 hours is, even for City Builder, is a fair shake. Yeah.
I mean, I think the other thing that you were saying is worth keeping in mind is it doesn't sound like you're in the mood for this type of game.
Yes. Yeah.
In which case, there's no point in like doing that 17th hour until you're in the mood.
Yeah, completely. I completely agree.
We have, and I know you get like, we all have this problem of like inertia of a game. You end up spending a few extra hours just because I've put these in, like some sunk cost fallacy, some inertia, and actually with a city builder, that's a lot of extra hours because, as you said, the like timeline of city builder time is like elongated. So then your sunk cost or your inertia can be like another 10 hours, looking to see if you want to spend the 90, and it's like, if you do, you'll come back to it, and if you don't, it'll be okay, right? But like, I think it would be interesting to be like, oh, you sit down, and you're like, oh, what game do I want to play? And you're like, oh, I'll play some City Skylines, and then that's the moment when you're like, oh, maybe I'll go back to that. Like that would be an interesting time to like revisit it when you know you're in the mood for one of those, rather than sort of
completely.
I'm here now.
Yeah, rather than me wanting to go and play like Stranded Deep or continue a little bit of Gris or something like that instead. Yeah, I need to be in that kind of in that mood. But it has made me think that maybe I should have tried Frostpunk whenever it came out, like 2 years or so ago.
I swear that's probably on Game Pass.
I mean, it might be. I'll take a look.
I think it actually has already left.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Interesting.
Came and went in the time I've had a subscription. I've just ignored it. Yes, yeah, it did make me think maybe I should try Frostpunk. But again, I need to be in that headspace to want to do this. And whilst I think that's part of why I like City Builders. It's kind of a little bit of it's a little bit of my job, but a gamified kind of version of it. So when I'm, I need to be in a certain kind of place within my work to then think I want to then do this in my spare time. And right now, when I'm just hammered with work, that's kind of not the thing I'm looking for in my time when I'm not working. Whereas if I'm doing, Project X and I'm loving it and it's really enjoyable, and I'm like, I want to keep that feeling up. This is that's when I go and play a City Builder game. When I'm like, yes, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing right now. Whereas at the moment with work, not to get too personal, there's a lot of it. And it's not that I'm not enjoying it, it's just that it's got to be done, just churned out and just smashed through. So it's like, right, I do enjoy this, but hammer it. I do enjoy this. There's no extra little flourish I can give to things at the moment. There's no extra time I can just go, well, I could give this an extra half a day, just to try and tease out a few more things. It's like, no, I got to nail it right now and get it done. So I think, in the headspace that I'm in, this kind of genre of game is kind of not quite what I want. So we'll see. We'll see if we ever talk about it again. Maybe. Endzone, A World Apart.
Assassin's Creed,
I don't know what
the World of Ezio.
Yes. Good. Cool. There's lots of other things for us to talk about this week, I believe. But should we open another beer?
Yeah, sounds good.
Amazing. What are you drinking now, Aadil? Or what are you, not now, you may still have the Pollys that you're drinking right now, but what are you going to open as your second beer?
I have this beer. It is Midnight Mischief, the Nitro Milk Stout from Siren.
Oh.
So it's a 4.7% Nitro Milk Stout. So like I did have the one thing of like going from an 8 to a 4.7. But it's a milk stout versus IPA. Yes, the Midnight Mischief. Its creamy mocha notes aplenty in this sessionable milk stout. Midnight Mischief has been given the nitro treatment, resulting in a smooth, thick-drinking dark beer perfect for the winter months. Roasty malts balanced with lactose sweetness as nutty praline and vanilla flavors hover beneath the surface. pour hard and fast for the full cascade effect. Yes, it's a 4.7%. I am a little worried about my sleep tonight. But yeah, so it's a little. I got it, I think, on sale through one of my online shipments because it's clearly a more wintry thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you know me, I like my stouts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it basically was like, oh, I've been sitting on this for a while. The weather's actually starting to turn. It's been a rainy day. This seems great. Second beer, kind of colder, and also But
yeah, that's fair. Absolutely.
So that's me.
That nitro will just. I mean, it says pour hard and fast. That nitro will just. You would think. A little widget. Oh, it doesn't. It doesn't. Look at that. What a lovely pour.
Isn't my best fucking pour on camera. Pour. Yeah.
Amazing.
So people, viewers, I can pour beer reasonably well. I always pour poorly on camera because of the eye level thing. And today was the day I realized I can roll back and then be just under eye level. And it made the world of difference. So if you have to performatively pour, make sure it's shoulder level or below, because that's the standard pouring, and just change the perspective of the camera.
That's it. Makes it a lot easier. Nice. Good.
Or don't overthink all of the things.
Yes.
Just pour a fucking beer.
I'm also going to have a stout.
Excellent.
It's a little bit bigger though, at 10%. It's
real stout.
And it's a 500ml bottle as well. This is Iceman. This is Iceman Interview from Maltgarden. It's a chocolate ice cream imperial stout with cacao nibs and vanilla and milk sugar. Sorry, the and put me off, rather than it being a common thing. I don't know why. But Maltgarden are... Oh shit, where are Maltgarden from? I've had a beer from Maltgarden before. Might have been in our end of year show.
I think it might have been. I vaguely recall.
Which was a stout, I believe, as well, but was like a chili stout. So this is a little bit different from what I've had from them before. Vanilla, milk, sugar, cacao nibs. But yeah, that's kind of all I get from it. Contains malt, barley, rye, flaked oats, lactose. Doesn't tell me anything else. That's fine. Pretty chill. No ball. So, yeah.
I really like the courier style typewriter font of the Maltgarden on the banner below.
Yes.
It's just such a nice, simple, clear thing.
Cool.
Iceman Interview.
Iceman Interview, yes. Who knows with beer names these days what any of them even mean. Lucy, you went to get yourself a water. Did you have a quick look and see if the other half had been drank, or if you had it?
Yes, I had to go downstairs, help Mom with something. It's not there, so I must have drank. Yeah,
I mean, fair.
I was like, is that it? No. It was another pink can.
Nice. So, Aadil, why don't we come back to your beer for what it tastes like? You're drinking, for Lucy, the Midnight Mischief from Siren.
It's the Nitro Milk Sour, which...
Stout.
Yeah. I said sour? Yeah. Definitely did. Definitely...
He's lost it.
The thing is, I looked at the Pollys, which isn't a sour, but my brain said sour's based on the tin. It's got this leafy... Doesn't matter. No one needs to know the weird intricacies of how my brain makes false connections. Nose-wise, oh god, that's such a luxurious coffee nose. First of all, you can see, it's obviously this deep, rich stout.
Yeah.
Super clingy lacing. The head's lasted a while. It's probably gone from a full finger to about 3/4 of a finger, actually, because there's just the lacing is making it look like it's a little thicker. The nose is luxurious. It's just that lactose is giving just a hint of sweetness, such that the raw coffee notes that are coming just a hint of also biscuity malt. It's just really well rounded. This this smells like just a little too deep. Like the alcohol's being betrays it, but like it smells like a really rich coffee with a couple sugars in it and a milk, like a white coffee with maybe a sugar in it. And it's the sugar's the alcohol part coming a little off of the nose. Oh wow. So the oh wow is super wet. It's super thin. I was expecting thick, viscous, especially with the way the head was clinging to the glass. This is thinner than the double dry hop double IPA I just had.
Okay.
In viscosity. Which is I guess 4%. 4.7%. So it's dangerous because I can easily just keep going back. I'm like, oh right, it's literally a sessionable milk stout. That's the thing that's throwing me off. So this is the problem of doing it in the standard like ale then stout order, but having almost double the alcohol, the ABV on the first one.
Yeah. It looks like
such
a
was
good
my
stout,
gamble.
though, man.
It is very
I
good.
just love the look at it. Yeah.
Oh, and this is the thing. This is a 4.7% stout. And I think the 4.7 is only obvious because it's thin, and I wouldn't even think I would notice that regularly if I didn't have like just a heftier beer before.
Yeah.
But you're getting kind of what I said on the nose. Just again, it is a little light. This is not a heavy tasting thing, but it is a sort of burnt, malty, coffee forward stout. What's nice though is basically what the lactose is doing is making up for that lack of ABV. It's rounding out the stout. So like we've had, even a 5% ABV stout. I think all three of us have in the past couple months said like, oh, if only it was a little more, just because it doesn't feel full enough. The lactose is there's just enough lactose that's giving a roundedness to rounded sweetness without making it taste like a milk stout. So this is actually just like well calculated, at least on my palate, in that it's not like, oh, this is a milk stout. It's like this stout tastes fuller because there's a sweetness that's not the actual sickly sweetness that I'm used to and looking for a stout, but it's playing a reasonable role, and there's not too much of it that I can immediately tell the difference. And then obviously I think also the very coffee forward notes are like making it easy to sort of miss what the sweet is doing. Yeah, it's very good. It's very drinkable. I think if I had this first, I would have been like, could I have another one before I go to the next beer?
Yeah.
Just because I think this will disappear, because it's just, especially coming off of a heavier beer, it's like very light and drinkable, but also it's doing the stuff I like about stouts, but at like maybe 66% of like in your faceness. So it's doing all the things. It doesn't feel weak. It's just light. It's just like, oh, I could easily have two of these in short succession, because my palate isn't just getting hit with these roasted notes in the same way that like heavier stouts do.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Well, let's see for me then, with a heavier, or at least a higher ABV stout, that nose is nuts, right?
Oh, yeah, nuts, hey?
Well, it is
Hazel?
nuts. It is nuts. It is nuts. It's very, very. It says it's cocoa nibs, vanilla, milk sugar, but smells very kind of hazelnutty.
Okay.
Really?
That's not
like but you're thinking like hazelnut pump in a latte, or like hazelnut?
I don't know. I've never had a hazelnut pump in a coffee before, so I don't know.
So basically,
so it must be the nuts.
Nutella hazelnut, or is it like raw? Raw?
No, it's a bit more. I'm not getting much chocolate, not on the nose at least.
Right.
It looks, at least the way it poured, very, very thin. There's no head on this whatsoever. Let's just jump in.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's like that.
I will stop interrupting you.
Yeah, like roasted nuts. I'm getting the roast from the coffee.
It's absolutely roasted nuts. Absolutely. Definitely getting a lot of coffee in there. Tons of it. Tons of it. It's a little bit burnt.
Okay.
Just this kind of slightly more bitter kind of edge to it. Even though it's got vanilla and milk sugar. What's milk sugar?
Is that like a bit of acidity that you're getting, like from that burntness? That's where the bitterness is coming from? Or?
Maybe. But it's currently like... It does have that slight sweetness to it. It does have a little bit of a sweetness to it.
Yeah.
That kind of comes right at the start. It does edge through just, but it fades very, very quickly, that sweetness. And that, you know, moves into a more roasted kind of feel, which then moves into a slightly more bitter, burnt kind of feel to it. But it's very nice. I actually really like that flow of flavours. And it does leave a little bit of a bitter, slightly more acidic kind of aftertaste to it. But that is balanced out by this kind of roasted note, which does feel very hazelnutty. There's no way of kind of around that. It does feel very... it does taste like hazelnuts. Again, it's not an adjunct. It's not anything on the thing that they've put in, but just the combination of what they give to me is very sort of hazelnut. But it's very nice.
Interesting.
It sits quite a while. It's not dry. The flavour lingers quite nicely. Fades as well. It's not like, now it's gone. It fades. So that I'm still getting that roasted flavour to it. And even now, it just sits. It just sits very nicely. It fades very softly. But I don't think there's much more to say about it. That's kind of what it does, and that is all it does, really. It hides that 10%. I said how well that last beer hid the 8-odd percentage that it was. There's no way you're getting 10% from this. It's a little bit more oily than the sort of the movement of the liquid suggests. Very velvety, very smooth. You're muted.
Sorry, mine looks like you're the 10. My phone vibrated because I forgot to turn it off, and so I like did the slam and then turned it off and forgot to. Anyway, doesn't matter. Embarrassment. Cut this from the pod editor. You're not going to, I know, but yeah. So mine looks like the bigger beer is what I was trying to say.
Yes.
Like because mine has a head and it clings, and yours has none. It just, like you said, it looks like. It just looks like flat cola almost. It
does. It moves like that as well. It's...
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like for 10%, the way you're swishing it, it doesn't seem that viscous.
Yeah.
Even without head, like a head's really good to like see that because of the contrast. But it still looks really light and thin.
Yeah, I mean, I tap the top of my glass. You might just catch it. A few bubbles around the edge. It fizzed very slightly. But that's it. That is really all it had to it. I mean, it does look thin, but it's not at all. Nice, medium, velvety, oily kind of body to it. And I think 500 mils is going to disappear very, very quickly. And it's. I said the last beer was dangerous. This is even more dangerous. This is danger. This shouldn't be called Iceman Interview. It should just be called Danger with an exclamation mark after the end.
I mean, it's because, Iceman takes the highway to the danger zone.
That's true. Holy shit. I go done.
There's cuts, and then there's deep cuts.
Perfect. Let's drink these beers. Let's enjoy them. Let's talk a little bit more about games. Before, Lucy, we jump into the game you'd like to talk about, I thought maybe I'd briefly just bring up again Gris. because I played it on stream for a couple of hours. Both of you have played it. We talked about it before on the podcast, but what a fantastic little game.
Oh, right.
What a beautiful, beautiful game that is.
Yeah. Stunning.
Yeah, I'm actually
crept up on to my like top 10 that year. Was it 2019?
19.
19?
Must have been 19. Yeah, because it wasn't last year.
I don't know what years are anymore.
No one does. They're a fiction invented by humans.
Well, that's true. Yes.
Sure.
I didn't get to watch a stream because I was away. But just hearing you did that, and honestly, like earlier today, I was like logging onto the Twitch, and you know when you go to the Twitch page, it just plays the last VOD.
Yeah.
And I just saw you with the title screen. I'm like, oh man, I never finished that game. I gotta finish that game. Like that was enough. Like sometimes you like have the pull, but obviously life, it's very easy to lose track of games. Yes. And I lost track of that game, but just seeing the menu was like, oh, I really want to finish that game.
Yeah. It's really short. It's only 4 hours or something. And it is one of those where you could probably just jump into your Switch save or whatever, because it's like, you know, the mechanics are really, it's like, well, a couple buttons. It's not something you have to relearn, but maybe for like the story is abstract enough, so if you weren't going to take much from that anyway, then
like I have vague memories of it, and I think like if I started and would felt lost, I would honestly just like boot up a Let's Play and like watch the opening cinematic and maybe fast forward to a chapter switch, and that would be enough.
Yeah, it's so short. Like if you got 2 hours and you're halfway through the game, if you restarted it, then not much of a time sink. But no, yeah, definitely recommend going back to it. And it ends very satisfyingly.
Nice. I did off stream play a little bit more as well. You know, maybe sort of 30 minutes or so, or 40 minutes. Ran through the kind of the next area, and I really like the way it mixes up kind of what it's trying to do. Like at times, it reminded me of Journey. Other times, it kind of reminded me of Hollow Knight. In moving through the levels, you know, the kind of the movement, you know, that kind of Metroidvania style of movement, even though it's nothing like a Metroidvania game, it reminded me of that just through kind of how things move and how you move through the space and the way that the levels are all kind of linked together. It's got some very good but slightly obscure puzzles in places. It just works. It's just a game that works as a whole package. It is just a very well produced game.
It's definitely one of those games where if someone says games can't be art, you can show them this and you can actually give them a controller. They might not do well if they've never played a game, but like one of the things about like things like The Last of Us or whatever is like, to understand how this can be impactful and emotional in certain ways, you have to like already know the paradigm, and you have to be able to like get through the game.
Yep.
But like it's simple enough that like just moving through it, and like you said, it's abstract, but like there's obvious symbolism. You can understand what it's trying to do, even if you're kind of like, what am I doing, right? And it's simple enough, and it, like I said, like you both said, it's just beautiful. It's just hard. It would be hard to argue that this isn't doing an art thing.
Yeah, but I gave it to my mom, who's never played a video game in her life, and she was able to get, you know, a bit of the ways through it. So
nice.
And she didn't know how to use it.
Yeah, you heard it here first. It's a baby game for babies.
Yeah, yes, baby.
But again, I think as you kind of commented whilst I was playing Lucy, you weren't sure whether there were any kind of like fail states. Whether you could kind of die to any of these sorts of things, or it was just it only ever push. You know, like there's this part where this bird kind of screams at you and blows you back, but it always seemed to catch me and stop me before I fell off kind of an edge or anything like that. And it does have that sort of sense to it that it is more experiential rather than being a game. And as we chatted with Admiral in the chat, that's, you know, there's absolutely a place for those kinds of things. So
Yeah,
No,
it's
April
not,
showed
it's
up.
not punishing. Yes, it's not a punishing Twitch-based platformer. It's more, okay, we're going to give you some light puzzling to figure that out.
Yes.
Yeah.
It kind of it wants you to, I suppose, feel like you're doing something, whilst also
But not
propelling
stop
you
you
on
from-
this journey, and taking you kind of not through the motions, but being like, this is the things that we want to show you. And to do that, yes, we will give you the ability to move, and we will make it interesting for you to do so. But this is what we're trying to do. And I absolutely appreciate that whoever was the kind of like the producer for this had a vision and just sort of went, you know, yes, let's put these extra elements in, but this is it. This is what we want to do. This is what we want to show. The beautiful, absolutely stunning sort of watercolor aesthetic as that kind of, you know, you discover a new color when you get to sort of a checkpoint, and the way that it blasts into the screen and washes over, and even then how that translates through to the different areas that you traverse through. It just works. It's such a beautiful game.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. As I was saying, like every frame could be just
Frameable?
just a poster. Yeah,
Yeah.
literally.
Frameable
Completely. And again, there's some areas where you don't do anything, you just move through them. But you could position your character, and that could be the cover. That could be the image for the game for you to take. But it doesn't, you know, like a tree, sort of the lovely way that it does its lines kind of up through to show a tree. And then rather than it being leaves, it was just water dripping down. And that was it. You didn't do anything in that area. It just showed you this tree and you just moved through.
Yeah.
That was it. So
Yeah, I was
frameable frames, Radara. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for joining us, dude.
Yes, thank you. Good to see you, Radar. Yeah, I was spamming the screenshot button on Switch playing it, and I'd be tempted just to fire it up on Game Pass, just to, you know, just
Play it again.
spam.
It's not there anymore.
Not play it again, just to take
It's gone.
screenshots.
It's gone. Came off Game Pass.
I mean, I forgot
Oh,
it was
did it?
It's off Game
Oh,
Pass?
right.
Yes.
Oh, that
Cut a few weeks ago, I think.
yeah, that's why wasn't that like the reason why you started to look into it?
So it was the reason why I was going to have a look at it, and then I realised that I had it on Steam.
But you just had it?
No, I think you gave it to me. I think you had an extra
I-
code from like a Humble or something.
Right, because I owned it on Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I give it to you.
So
Full
thank you.
circle.
If that was the way that it did come, thank you very much, because this is an
I
excellent
think
experience.
that's correct, but yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Spam
Perfect.
it well for me then.
I mean, yeah, you won't get many of those anymore because I'm much better about not buying bundles I don't need. And like,
I mean,
knock on
also,
wood, I will continue to be that guy.
I mean, not to delve too deeply into it because we've got another game to talk about, but also Humble now owned by, you know, the corporation that owns IGN and the shit that they've pulled the last couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing we didn't end up talking about a couple of weeks ago when it was in the news, but the fact that they needed to backpedal because they were trying to ruin what makes Humble. So quick sidebar that Ben's trying to avoid. But
Oh
just,
no,
if you
that's not the one I'm trying to avoid.
Oh,
We can talk about that, absolutely. I'm talking about the shit that fucking Zip Davis and what they're called J2 pulled about the fucking Palestinian relief that IGN posted about, and then in the middle of the night they just pulled that article down.
I
took
didn't
it
hear
away.
about that.
Mm-hmm.
Guess we're gonna talk about both of them, or
No,
that's all we're talking
we've
about that one?
got to talk. We've got another game that we need to talk about. So
I mean,
we won't get into this.
But I do think maybe next week we'll try and make space for game news C segment because it's been a while,
Yeah, we could do.
and
So
there's a
depressing.
backlog.
Depressing.
And Apple Epic should be done by next week, right? I think the end of Discovery was this week.
I think that has been the most joyous thing recently in the game news. Just
Anyway.
seeing the bizarre things that have come out of that trial, and seeing some of the insidious things that companies do that we all know that they do. But it's more like, Tim Sweeney, can you identify what this is? It's like, oh, it's a PS5. I mean, out of all the consoles in the world that have ever been created, I think the most distinct looking console is that ugly, hideous looking PS5. It looks like a Geiger-esque monstrosity.
But also, it's like it's the only console that's the size of 7 consoles. So
I mean, it's surprising. It wasn't like, I'm sorry, is that not just a standing fan?
Oh, is that Dyson's newest thing?
Yes.
They figured out how to do the like the fanless fan, but without the big oval.
Is that a nuclear reactor? Yeah. If they said, what's this, you know, Xbox One Series X or whatever, you'd probably get the name wrong and it'd be like, that's a fridge. But everybody knows what the PS5 is. How can you not look at it?
Absolutely. Yeah, completely.
It screams its name as you walk into the room. Pay attention to me!
Oh dear.
What if your router had sex with 3 other routers?
At the same time? Or...
Hey, don't kink shame the PlayStation router.
It's like the Rat King of consoles.
Oh dear. I like how this is us getting back on topic for a game. Just to keep
Good.
track.
Yes, I'm glad. Rodari just says, to finish out, on Apex's new map, there's a building that looks like a PS5. I know in real life there have been a couple of buildings which have resembled consoles. There was a big PS3 one. There was one that looked like the Jawa's Sandcrawler as well.
Oh yeah.
From Star Wars. There's loads of buildings. Architecture reflects art all the time. So to see that being a building in Apex, art reflecting game in game, makes sense. Again, another full circle thing that we have come to. Good.
Joyous.
Good. So, we have another game to talk about. However, we can't talk about it on the stream. So, thank you for joining us, Rodari. Thank you everybody else for joining us. We've got to cut off the stream now because Lucy wants to talk about a game that she's embargoed until at least tomorrow to talk about, or Thursday to talk about. So when the podcast version comes out, go and listen to the podcast version of this, as you should. Search Tanked Up in your podcast service of choice. Go to our Out of Lives YouTube channel. Come to outoflives.net. Everything is there for you to find the talk that we are now going to have about a game. But at least for the stream, thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you next... Oh God, I can't say see you next Tuesday, can I? Fuck's sake. What a way to end. Bye. See you in a bit, eh?
Wow. Really?
I mean, you know.
I'll see y'all next Tuesday.
Imagine if I did drop the words. Bye.
Cunt. Right, I said it and I clicked stop streaming straight away. So.
Oh, you didn't raid.
Well, I mean, but we're gonna keep talking.
Yeah.
So, I've got.
I'm giving you a hard time.
I've got a note 126. So we're gonna cut back in at 128 roughly. Cool.
Away from prying eyes.
Yes, exactly. So Lucy,
Not.
what game is it that you'd like to talk about?
The game I've got to talk about is called Backworlds. Finally procured by yourself, Ben.
Yes.
What's the name of the developer? I think it was...
I don't know.
I'm going to go to the Steam page. Logic Ember Limited. I wonder if they've done anything else.
These developer names are getting very complicated, aren't they?
Yeah. Having limited and ink on the ends, like, gosh. Yeah, it looks like their only title that they've done. This has been out on PC for a hot minute since February last year, apparently.
Wow.
I didn't know it was that old. Yeah. Because I think I originally played a demo on probably one of the Steam game festivals in the last, definitely in the last year or so.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they put it out after the release just to drum up a few more sales. I mean, it's got right now 14 positive reviews, so for the quality of the game, it is. I would have hoped to see a few more people jump on it, but maybe that's just the reviews. Who knows how many actual people have played it? But it is a puzzle platformer. I'd call it a platformer. Where the central mechanic is you have sort of like a light world and a dark world where you can sort of paint over this, parts of the screen, and in one world, this chameleon, this cute little chameleon character that you play as, when you go from the light world and dark world, the properties of each world are different, and like the physics are different. It starts off. There's a few interesting things about this game. I'll speak a bit more about the mechanics. There's 4 different, like, quote unquote worlds. I'll get more into like how the game is structured in a second, but there's like 4 distinct like types of mechanics in there. So one is basically you can change the gravity. So say if you paint the screen in the dark world, your character's basically in 0 G, and when you paint it back, they fall to the ground because it's like normal gravity. There's another one where it's sort of like, what's the best way to describe it? It's sort of like being on like tram tracks, electrical tram tracks, where it's like your feet go electrified, and anything that you paint in like the dark world goes electrified, and you can like sort of walk around walls and stick to walls.
Okay.
And it does switch up the mechanics enough. There's as I say, like 4 central ones, but I think the way that they're used and the distinct puzzles, that they never get stale, they never feel old. So yeah, but even those 4 mechanics stretched across this game, which probably took me. The rubbish thing I hate about Switch is that until you close the game, it doesn't tell you how long you've played it, or until you've played a few more games, doesn't say how long you've played it for. It's always like, you played this recently, just tell me how many hours.
Yeah, it takes time to catch up and actually tell
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll probably say I probably spent probably about 10 hours on it.
Yeah.
Give or take. I think a lot of that mileage was me just getting stuck on some puzzles, but yeah, it's a fairly girthy puzzle game. It's not over and done in like 2 hours or something like that. It's longer than I thought. And a lot of that length comes from the way the game is structured, which I really like. It's basically open. After you've done the first few puzzles, just teaching you how to use the mechanics, like this brush stroke that you can make bigger or smaller. Sort of like Microsoft's Paint, you can change the cursor size and stuff like that. So for the more intricate little puzzle, you can do smaller strokes, or if you just want to make the whole thing the light world or the dark world, it's just like just one big swath.
Okay.
And after those couple levels, just introducing you into the mechanics. It uses the directional pad, which is good because I hate Joy-Con's drift. It's awful. I've noticed it come back during Pokemon Snap, and it's been the worst.
Okay.
Yeah, not a problem in this game, fortunately. But after you get through those very short, like, tutorialization levels, it basically just opens up. These 4 distinct worlds, you can access them whenever you want, and you can tackle puzzles in whatever order you want. It's not... The levels are, like, single screen, but you can just keep on going to like the next part of the next screen and try and tackle that puzzle. If you don't like that puzzle, or you're stuck on this puzzle, you can go to the next one in this world.
Wow. Okay.
It's open from the start, which is really handy because. Carry on.
Oh, I was just like, entirely open, or is it like there's a section where you can get anything, or like any puzzle in the entire game is open?
Entirely open with a little bit of a caveat. because basically in each of these puzzle rooms, you're trying to get this like coloured circular blob. You're trying to just access that. It's usually locked behind, you know, some like you're having to press this lever and then it makes this door go up and you're able to access it there, or you have to move, you know, blocks, you know, using the very different central mechanics, and you know, to get up onto the block and then access the blob there. And it's to unlock, there's sort of like a boss room in each world. It's a non-violent game. It's not like this chameleon just suddenly pulls out a Desert Eagle and starts shooting or anything. It's
it's not like Gex is more badass, brother.
It's not quite Gex. Just imagining this chameleon putting on like sunglasses and just getting like twinny Uzis out and just spraying at the face.
This is double-barreled shotgun just for payers from behind it.
Like. Something to do. It's non-violent like boss, like scenario where you're just basically using the mechanics that you've learnt in that particular world, and basically just dispatching this quote-unquote boss. This chameleon actually keeps like the trophies of, you know, his enemies, which is kind of weird, but yeah. So to get to that boss area, you have to complete 12 puzzles of each like color. There's like I think it's yellow, red, blue, and green. So to unlock the boss in the yellow world, you have to, you know, solve 12 of the puzzles in that.
But it can be any 12 puzzles taken in any order that you like.
It's literally any, which I think it's probably maybe about 16 or 18 per world, something like that. So you don't have to do all of them, which was a blessing, because in the blue world, I couldn't wrap my head around some of those puzzles. And I think this is where the structure of the game has a little bit of a downfall, in the fact that because I could just go into the blue world at any time. I think it was one of the last worlds I did go to anyway. Whichever puzzle I landed on first, I don't know if it was literally the first one going into the blue world, but it's like everything was just all the mechanics and all the different ways the world can, you know, interact. It felt like they just dropped all that on immediately, and I didn't get the chance to learn the mechanics that well. Yeah. Because in that world, there was like a case where if you turn into like the dark world, it's like you're underwater and you can swim up. And then there was like, okay, we're going to introduce this anchor mechanic, which is on like a reel, and this wind mechanic. So it's like, oh, in order to go face forward into the wind, otherwise it's going to blow you back, I need the anchor with me. But it's like I can only use the anchor when I'm in the swimmy world, and it was just a lot of different mechanics all at once. And I think that's where it could have used like 1 or 2 levels going into the blue world just to tutorialize, you know, 1 or 2 of the mechanics that, you know, at the same time.
I mean,
and
even
then add a third and fourth.
Yeah, even if it allows you to go into whichever one you want level or puzzle 1 of this world to be, this is the basic mechanic we are using throughout this. Puzzle 2 is then this, rather than we thought of 16 really hard puzzles, here are all of them to take in whichever way that you want to. It needs a little bit of structure within that to take you through and give you the language of what they're trying to show you.
Agreed, because it was I had to brute force my way through, you know, some of those puzzles where I just like, I got through it, but I still didn't quite understand the mechanics that much. Like, I didn't know where if my anchor could tether onto something, because it just always went back on the rail. It's like, is this a timing thing? I don't know. And it's so even though I managed to get 12 of those puzzles, I feel like I still don't have a full grasp on, you know, most of those mechanics in that world. So I think that's where the structure kind of falls apart, but it was really only in that instance.
Sure.
Every other world, it was like I enjoyed figuring out, oh, I now have like you know, electricity boots and I can walk on walls. That was interesting to find that out. And it's like, oh, this is anti-gravity. It's like it was interesting to just figure that out for myself. But I think I don't know. I'm very attuned to puzzle games, and it's like, you know, if someone maybe needed a bit more, you know, holding their hand, I certainly did in the last world that I encountered, then yeah, maybe it would have been better if a few levels were tutorialized before each world. But I think I prefer the open structure rather than. I really appreciate about that. It's much more of a positive for me than that drawback with the last few levels. And I think because I didn't have to get all those, you know, complete every single level, that gave me the freedom to not, you know, as rubbish as it may sound, not grasp those puzzles.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, that's like any game. You have moments where you kind of, whoops. It's just with puzzle games, it's more obvious when you whoops through it.
There is like there are like aha moments, but I think the frustration with those is just I like it when a puzzle stumps me, because it's like, okay, I know what I have to do, I just can't see it. Whereas I don't know what I'm doing because I don't know how to use these mechanics. I don't know how they interact with one another. I'm feeling frustrated.
This is like a fog in front of the mechanics rather than a fog in front of the solution.
Exactly, yeah. Because some of those puzzles, they are head scratchers. Some of them did take like 45 minutes for me to figure out, like single screen puzzles, and it's and figuring it out and getting that aha moment on those was very satisfying. I think the fact that I couldn't find a walkthrough is probably most of the reason why it's like, okay, I'm just gonna have to figure it out. But the puzzles are really well made. You can tell that the developers play tested this a lot, because there are like some kind of physicsy things in the game. So it's like, I can imagine like players who are, you know, either being creative or dumb like me end up in a irreversible situation. It a lot of the times it feels like it's accounted for that. So there's only like a few rooms where it's like you have this reset button. But most of them, it's like, even when you're like, oh crap, I shouldn't have moved that block there, it's like there's no reset button. So it's like, well, there must be a way to reverse that then. And so the developers have thought about that, and sometimes it's actually like, no, you're on the right track, this is the solution. It was only like once or twice I like snagged myself in a corner or something like that. But the great thing is that you can teleport at any time, you know, to like these little portals. There's quite a few, you know, scattered across each world. And you can just teleport to them whenever you want. So, like at the end of the game, where I was just cleaning up a few puzzles from different worlds, it was like, yeah, I'll teleport there, I'll teleport there, teleport there.
That's nice. That's a nice touch. Two little thoughts on kind of what I have is, firstly, it sounds like they played a lot of The Witness, and went, how do we make this a little bit more open? Like, The Witness was a game where you could kind of do it in whatever order you wanted, but then you start this and that then leads you into a series of different puzzles. You know, it wasn't completely open, and they've played it and gone, we really like how this works, but let's make it even more open. Let's allow people to just hit whatever they want at any point. But then that detracts from the idea of learning the language of that area. But as a kind of question, did you have to go between the light and dark worlds on every single puzzle?
Yeah. I don't think you can solve a puzzle without it. That is like the mechanic in the game. So every like puzzle requires it. And it's less like, what's another game where you go through like it just completely changes like from light to dark world. It's not quite that where you just press a button. Maybe Braid I'm thinking of, or something like that, where it's like you go into a completely different world. This is like you change parts of the world by using that brush stroke.
Braid sounds about right then.
Yeah, the Sojourn as well, which I played a couple of years ago. That was one where you switched between light and dark, but you stayed in the same space.
Yeah,
and basically it was like, here's a block in the light world, and you change to the dark. It's like the block is not here anymore, so you can now progress through, sort of thing.
Yeah. Your analogy to the Witness was interesting, and it's correct in the sense that yes, it has more of an open structure. I think in this game though, each world, because it has that mechanic, these mechanics are not built like for example, the anti-gravity mechanic is only available in the in its respective world.
Sure. Yes.
It doesn't. You don't see anti-gravity in the kind of electricity boots world.
Yep.
So you don't need to like learn a particular mechanic in order to then go to another world. So
yes,
the only time that you do need like knowledge of all of them, and these levels don't open until the very end of the game, really.
Oh, okay.
Is when you beat all 4 bosses for each color, and then you're able to unlock these like very end level like puzzle kind of rooms that use all 4 of the mechanics. There's probably only about 6 across the world. Again, you don't have to do all of them. You only have to do 4 in order to finish the game, to see credits. But in these rooms, all 4 mechanics are used, and it's such. I don't know if I wanted more of these levels, like scattered throughout the game, or whether, I don't know. It's something like, did either of you play Hue? That game?
Yeah, I did. I was gonna say Hue earlier when you were talking about this like black and white thing, and I couldn't remember the name of the game.
Yeah, because those, as soon as you unlocked a new color, it would be used immediately in the next set of levels. It would just, Roy G. Viv would just progressively get added, and you'd see them, some of them, or if not all of them, in like the same puzzle as you progressed. Whereas this, it very much gates those, that amalgam of all these mechanics right at the end of the game, as the last set of puzzles in order to, watch the credits. And it kind of makes me just want like them to do like I don't know, Backworlds 1.5, where it's like you have all 4 of those mechanics, and they build these rooms around all 4 of the mechanics rather than just 6.
So you get like almost like a DLC to it. You get 20 puzzles to run through that use all 4 of the mechanics.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, but they were hard, so it's like I'm glad that that it wasn't too much of the game at the same time. But
it's kind of like a final point. Was it too hard? So when you say it was hard when it got into using all 4 of those things. Was it a case of being like, well, no, I know how this works, I know how this works, I know how this works, I just need to combine them in a certain way? Or was it like, how the fuck have they done this?
No, because it's a single screen level. You have all the information given to you on that screen.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you have to like go up a bit, and there's a bit more, and but it's giving you all those mechanics. It's like, what you have to do. It's just figuring it. and it has that kind of, it's difficult, but in a very satisfying kind of way.
Yes.
Where, as I say, apart from those other frustrating puzzles where I didn't understand the mechanic, everything else in the game, it's a multi-step puzzle. It isn't just okay, move block here. It's move block here, and then use electricity boots, and then move that block there, you know, etc., etc. It's a multi-step process. So I think that's where the difficulty lied, in just the fact that it's like, okay, I've got to do this, then do this, then do that, then do that. But yeah, it was a satisfying kind of difficulty. I really enjoyed this game. As I say, it doesn't have. I hope more people, you know, get their eyes on it now that it's coming to Switch this week. Because yeah, it's one of those. I always talk about puzzle games. I like puzzle games that have a really good central mechanic and have a satisfying ramp up. This is kind of different, where it's like it doesn't necessarily have that ramp up, but it has such a satisfying open world structure that I didn't miss that ramp up. So yeah, I'd recommend people definitely check this out. How much is it on Steam at the moment? $7.19, and you know, get a fair bang for your buck. As I say, it took me, maybe I'm stupid, but you know, it took me 10 hours to finish. So yeah, it's nice. And it's got a really nice soundtrack. I think they said something about BAFTA winning or BAFTA nominated composer for the soundtrack, and it's got a really nice art style too. It's got the very striking look of like the light world, like very colourful. You know, because you know, colour is like one of the central themes in it. So very colourful. You're going through like these jungle areas and these like kind of almost temple areas and forestry areas, and and then I don't know if it had like some kind of social commentary to it, but when you changed to like the dark world, it was like this very industrial kind of built up gentrified city. So it's like, is this what happens when, you know, deforestation the chameleons die or something like that? I don't know. Apparently I may have missed like a cutscene at the beginning of the game, but you know, you're basically a chameleon, like drawn, you know, a cartoon chameleon drawn and stuck on a fridge. And he's basically jumped into some kind of painting. It's because this woman's painting in this high-rise apartment or something. I don't know. I don't know if it has any social commentary about that, but yeah, deforestation is probably a bad thing.
I mean, yeah, we absolutely. Yes.
I think yes. What it was most striking was when I was playing Microsoft Flight Simulator, of all things. I think I was flying somewhere over, like, it was Central America somewhere. It might have been Belize or Costa Rica or something. And then just as I was getting to like the coast, it was just like just raised. It was just like you had all this jungle before, and then it was just like, okay, now everywhere is just
farm, grazing land.
Yeah, just brown. It's all just brown now, and it's like just land. It's nobody's even using it. It's just, you know, we got a contract to tear down all the trees, and we might use it for, you know, to make something here one day.
We need more soya.
Corporations
to fill up for the cattle feed. Sure.
Yeah.
Let's just do it there because it's cheap.
Yeah. 4 million.
I mean, there's social commentary in everything, every fucking thing possible. Yeah. So, if you've read into it and you think there probably is in some sort of way.
That's what I got. Unless
you're like Ubisoft and you're too scared to fucking say anything because you're cowards. Sexually abusing cowards. Let's finish there for.
You can change the colour of the chameleon.
Oh, good.
I'll leave it on that.
Thank you for that slight bright something.
And I should say, Backworlds and the people who make it and the people who publish it, nothing to do with Ubisoft.
Yeah,
that was a completely different comment.
Well, that was an aside. But anyway, they made a great game.
Good.
So check it out, everyone.
Perfect. Let's jump very swiftly into our beers then to finish out our evening. Aadil, out of the two that you had, do you have a preference?
Oh, it's actually really tough this week. I like them both for very different reasons. The the DDH, the Genesee from Pollys is very good. It's a solid. I would get another one of these. IPA with some nuance, very drinkable. The Midnight Mischief is much more niche. It's just like, hey, what if we made a sessionable, clearly coffee-based milk stout? Which, how many times do you want to have those sessions? But it's such a good beer in that realm, and all. So basically, I might go back for a second of the Pollys more often, but I'm going to give it to the Midnight Mischief because it's a 4.7% stout that is just doing way more than it's punching above its weight.
Yeah.
It's giving me all the notes, all the indications of a heftier one, and even the nitro coffee, is actually quite laid back, and so I think what it's mostly doing is filling the gap of the lighter weight stout, and that's exactly kind of what I want. I don't want to have this sort of more watery stout that is just like super coffee forward, and they've balanced those things. So it is a thing I could have a second of and even a third of easily because it's 4.7%, but also I could just have it because it's a very tasty, rich, filling experience. And it's remarkable that it's doing that without even below the 5% barrier, right? Like that's pretty uncommon. So they have to give it to them on that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. I'm gonna stick with you though and go for the stout this week. I'm staying away from the States. Maltgarden is from Poland, as I've just googled. So I'm giving it to Maltgarden this week. Both beers are very good, and I would absolutely, as you said, Aadil, I would absolutely no doubt drink again. And I think I would reach, had I have just had the other half, which was double mosaic dream. It would have been very easy to just continue drinking that. It's very light, had a lot of fruit going on. There was that lovely sweetness to it that just peaked it from being a bit too kind of bitter, kept it a little bit light, kept it very, very easy to drink. But this Iceman is a lovely, lovely flavour, and even though the adjuncts on the front differ a little bit from the flavour that I'm getting, it's so easy. It doesn't feel like 10%. It's a lovely, lovely stout. I would drink this every single day. If you said to me you can only drink one beer every day, you can have one beer every day, but you can only drink one beer forever.
Yes.
This is a beautiful flavour.
Wow.
That's
it really is. It's beautiful, and it doesn't do a huge amount. It just hits that flavour so well.
Nice.
It tastes so beautiful, and I'd go, yeah, sure, I can have a pint, and I'll be pissed every fucking day for the rest of my life because who knows that this is 10%? No one.
I like the poetry and eloquence of this review. Just love it.
I'll stick to the name. I'll tank everything that we do. But yeah, there's no way you would tell this is 10%.
I need to think it out. I mean, Eastern Europe make good stouts. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. There's just this, we talk about water quality, what we think of beers from over kind of like in New York and America, what we're getting from certain beers here in the UK. Something about Eastern European stouts just hits right.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's the malt build that they get, whether it's kind of all local and it is just something else that's lifting them above everyone.
Them and Scandinavia, because I'm just thinking of all the great stouts. I'm just thinking of like Amundsen.
Yeah, Amundsen, absolutely.
Yeah. Speaking of stouts, did you get your hands on that Brew York birthday?
No. No. Okay. I know you've got it sat, haven't you?
I do.
I may still have a look next week. And see if I can get a box. Was it Freaky something?
Freaky 5-year Friday. Or
Yeah, yeah. Horror-based stout box from Brew York.
Yeah, I think it's, what is it, 10, 11, 12, 13, no. There's 5 beers, I think, so
Five,
11, 12,
five
13, 14,
double-digit
15.
beers. Yeah.
Yeah, they go up to 15%, and yeah, for me, Brew York make the best stouts in the UK, but, you know, they're in tough competition with the likes of Amundsen and Valhalla, and, you know.
Yeah.
And Maltgarden. Yeah.
Absolutely. I've had 2
Yeah.
beers from Maltgarden, and both have been fantastic. So
Yeah, I do enjoy
I
that
mean,
beer.
it's one of those where I know that next time I do a big bottle shop order, I'll be like, what do they have in
Yeah.
here? It'd be something that I'd look for next time.
I think
sounds
my
great.
first trip out of my bunker, now that I'm vaccinated, might just have to be a bottle shop in a few weeks. So.
Ooh, it's a big one. It's a big trip. Nice.
Well,
Good.
it will be. It'll be an expensive one.
You
too.
will, yeah, absolutely. Save up. Not this payday, the next one, because you've got both to then lean into for that big bottle shop trip.
I might as well go on a cruise. It'll be cheaper.
That's true. Yeah. Good. A nice place for us to finish for the evening. Listener, viewer, friend, if you have other stouts or other beers that you'd like us to drink or things that you would recommend, let us know. You can drop a comment on the YouTube video. You can drop a comment on outoflives.net where this is as well. You can leave us a review in your podcast service of choice. Tell us about the beers that you're drinking, or you can come and join us in the Discord. You can hit one of us up. You can either go to @TankedUpCast on Twitter. I'm at Nova_47. Lucy is JuicyLuce9. Aadil is at the Omniarch. Go to any of us, ask us, come and join us in the Discord and chat to us about the beers that you're drinking or the games that you are playing. I think I've hit everything very, very concisely there.
Yes, except the closer, where you've awkwardly just started talking about how good you are at this.
Bye.
Cut it. Cut it. Bye.
Done. Yeah. Bye. Laugh that peaks the microphone and then cut it.
I'm gonna
Can't
check.
get better.
And I mean, just to round us out, ciao.
www.outoflives.net